Hello, everyone. You are watching Policy and Legislation Tuesday. This is Christina Laster. I hope you're all well. I hope that you're all thriving. Hello to America's beautiful children. We love you. And so I want to just take today to inform you of your rights. The more you know, the more you can activate them. And so today, we're going to be talking about the Freedom of Information Act and how that applies to open records requests in your area. I had been getting a lot of requests to talk about what open requests look like, right? How do we really use that in our state? And they will vary from state to state. And so it's really driven by the Freedom of Information Act. And you will want to know that information. I'm going to start sharing and let's get into it. All right, so as I always say, when we're looking at, what is the information, we look at the source, right? Sometimes it's good to talk to auntie and uncle and them, but you need to really be checking the source of information when it comes to laws, codes, policies, any kind of acts that affect you and your rights. Knowing the ins and outs of them help you to be able to advocate better and come from a place of understanding and knowledge and data, whatever it may be that you may need. So here we are. And you can see we're on the U.S. Department of State, Freedom of Information Act website. You can see that it says foia.state.gov learn, right? At the top, you see there's tabs, request, contact, search, home, learn. Today, we're just talking about the Freedom of Information Act and why it's important, right? There's lots of acts out there. You really want to know about this one. Why? Because it allows you to request access to federal agency records. And, those state public not organizations, but yet organizations you can if they receive federal fundings and things like that. But those institutions, you have a right as the public to request information. There are some exemptions. We will go in that. It says right here about FOIA and other information access programs. What does it say? Exactly what I've just delineated to you. The Freedom of Information Act generally provides that any person, yes, that means you, right, has the right to request access to federal agency records or information except to the extent that the records are protected from disclosure by any of 9 exemptions contained in the law or by one of the 3 special law enforcement record exclusions. Okay, let's go down. The Freedom of Information Act only applies to, so here's what you're going to find out. Does it apply to the institution that I would like open records request? Applies to federal agencies and does not create a right of access to records held by Congress, the courts, state or local governments. Any requests for state or local government records should be directed to the appropriate state or local government agency. Why is that different? Because your state is going to have an open records request act that is going to be a little bit different from what FOIA handles, right? So these are the guidelines for what they handle. Some records previously proceeded for disclosure under the Act may be routinely available for public inspection and copying. Here you can view the administrative rulings, policies, statements, and other publications before making your request here. Okay, so this is if you need some of the federal agency records or information, and you can come here, you can request. It gives you what the Privacy Act mandates, and that is how federal agencies maintain records about individuals Might want to read that and check that out. That's a whole nother section and a whole nother act with Privacy Act. I'm not going to really go into that. Why is this important? Well, if I'm looking for open records request, if I want to do an Open Records Act or request in my area, that just delineated the right to do so. Being that government cannot keep secrets from the people, right? That's the best way to really kind of break that down, is that we need to be able to have access to records. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can go to the next slide that I'm going to show you here. Let me go up. And I'll show you a different view of this, and then I'll show you how to search for it in your state. Okay. So here we are at Homeland Security. Okay. You see that? There it is. Always check the source. Always check the information. Here's Freedom of Information Act, how to submit a request, check the status of the request, all of this information on the left-hand side. The exemptions, okay? You're going to want to know those exemptions. Who can you ask for public records from and who you cannot, right? Here it says right here, FOIA is a federal statute that provides that any person, again, that means you, has a right to request access to federal agency records. FOIA also establishes a presumption that records in the possession of agencies and departments of the executive branch of the U.S. government are accessible to the people. That means you, except to the extent that the records are protected from disclosure by any of the 9 exemptions contained in the law, or by one of the 3 special law enforcement record exclusions. So here is the information is repeated. You can find it here. You can click here to submit a FOIA Privacy Act request. But what I want to show you is the exemptions. Okay, so let's go to the exemptions so you know who can't give records. All right. So here we have again, looking at the source, Homeland Security, exemptions. You will find the exemptions and examples of information that the Department of Homeland Security may withhold under each exemption. So you have exemption 1, 2, 3, right? And I'm going to share these links in the chat so that you are able to go back and really look at this information for those of you that are trying to get records, trying to understand your rights, state, local, federal. Here is the FOIA, Department of Homeland Security, gives you the exemptions, what you can get, what records are protected and exempted, shows you right here, okay? Exclusions, right? So remember, there were those exemptions and exclusions, and there's the 3 exclusions and the 9 exemptions, okay? Now, we're going to go to a nifty little part of information that is also provided for you. Here again, we have, check the source, FOIA.gov, right? It's telling you what is the Freedom of Information Act, okay? And it says right here clearly, since 1976, the Freedom of Information Act has provided to the public, that means you, I'm gonna give you a quiz after this. Who am I talking about? That means you, okay? The public, that means us. We can request access to records from any federal agency. It is often described as the law that keeps citizens in the know about their government, right? Some people have questions around how funding's being spent. Other people have questions around how different things are happening. What is going on? Can I access those records? Can I not? Yes. This says us, the people, we, the public, have the right to know, unless it is covered under those exclusions, 3 of them, or 9 exemptions. Federal agencies are required to disclose any information requested under the FOIA, again, unless it falls under one of the 9 exemptions, which protect interests such as personal privacy, national security, and law enforcement. So you're gonna want to come see this. There's a nifty little video, and here's a Q&A, right? And so if you go here, it's gonna break it down. What is FOIA? I basically summed it up for you. There's a little video right there. Who can make a request? I told you, that means us, the people. We can make a request, right? Here's a video on how do I make a request, right? So if you didn't want to go back and read all of that, that information, you can definitely come here, and they have videos that you can watch on how to make your Freedom of Information Act request. And I'm going to share this information with you in the chat. I thought that was a pretty good tool to use. So here we go. I wanted to share this goodjobsfirst.org. You know, it's not the government website. Again, we're looking at the source of information, where you're getting things from. And if you look outside of the official sources of information, you just kind of want to know, you actually really want to know, is this a reputable reporting source, right? Are they giving accurate information to the public? Or is it kind of like bias? Is it not neutral? Or are they just reporting the facts and how to utilize the tool? And so I found this to be pretty accurate, you know, using open records and freedom of information laws. I will share this, and it explains the Open Records Act or Freedom of Information Act are laws that give you, again, that means you, us, we the people, right to access public documents. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm just going to read the first part so you can know, you know, what they're talking about, which means anything in the possession of a public agency, okay? Why? Since the Vietnam War and Watergate, when government secrecy created so much popular anger, Americans have insisted on having the right to know what public officials and agencies are doing. That means we, the people, can be in their business. Yes, through open records and freedom of information law. What are they doing? What are public agencies and officials doing, right? Because so few states have full subsidy disclosure, there could be no economic development accountability without open records laws, okay? Every state, now this is the part that I want you to pay attention to. Every state has a law modeled on the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, affirming the public's right to see government documents. So that is why FOIA is an important driver, because every state has a law on the Federal Freedom of Information Act. I will share this so that you can get that delineated. Each state does have its own set of rules. Here in California, we have what is called the California Public Records Act, CPRA, right? You know, some people call it Public Records Act, some people call it Open Records Act. Depends on what state you're in. It says right here, each state sets its own rules, but generally the Open Records Act applies to all government agencies. Public information is generally construed to mean information collected, assembled, or maintained by a government body. That means that you cannot request something they don't have. So if they didn't collect, assemble, and maintain this information, you cannot request it, okay? You can't Open Records Act request or Public Records Act request something that the public agency does not have. You will get your request denied based on the fact that they don't have that information, and they cannot go and basically get information that they don't have, okay? And it says, but this is exactly the intent. I'm just skipping. Taxpayers, that means you, that means us, we the people, should be able to see any information that is used by people acting on the public's behalf, unless their elected representatives have voted to restrict access to a specific type of document. So you're definitely going to want to go and search your state's Open Records Act, okay, and find out what are those things that you can't request. What are the things that you can? How do you do that? Well, you go to Google, and you put, and you see they have it every state right here, right? But if I put find Open Records Act in my area, wow, look what comes up. California Public Records Act. And it shows you several, right, places where you can go. You want to make sure that where you go is the official website to where you need to be. You don't want to, go somewhere else. Here you can see this is the Attorney General's website, State of California Department of Justice, right? So I know that I've landed in a place that's not like some pop-up ad that's just going to get your information and say, if you pay us $15, then we'll do this for you. You do not have to pay someone to do this unless you want to. And here's the public records, okay? So if you're in the state of California, it tells you you have the right under the State Public Records Act and California Constitution. So definitely be checking your state's constitution and how they do the Public Records Act to access public information maintained by a local, state government agency, including the Department of Justice, right? So a lot of people want to know, can they do a public or Open Records Act request with school districts? Absolutely. Can you do it with other government agencies? Absolutely. You're the public. You're requesting access to information and records. You are there is a time deadline. You need to be paying attention to your time, your state's time deadline. It says it right here. What information is there, but your state is going to have their time deadline. What it is that it needs to be in writing. They should respond. If they need extension on time, they'll ask for that. Let's see. If I go to Open Records Act request in, let's do Georgia. Georgia pops up. Wonderful, right? I'm going to show you what that website would look like. Okay. So here we are again looking for the official website. Oh, here it is. Open Records Request. Government website. Let's see if that's the information. State Accounting Office, right? Open Records Request. So this just shows you that we, the people, have a right to access the documents for inspection and copying, okay, of information that we would like to have. Cannot be hidden. There are 9 exemptions, 3 exclusions. Make sure you know what is specific for your state. See how easy that is to do that? And make sure that you know also that you cannot ask for any documents that they do not have. Okay, so if you're going to be doing a Public Records Act request or Open Records Act request to the school district, and you want to know how they allocated their funding, and you don't see that quite in their funding plan. Here we call it, of course, Local Control and Accountability Plan, but you kind of want to know more about how funding was allocated, and you know they may have gotten a specific amount, but you don't really know how much they spent in this area or that area. Make sure that you are very detailed in your request. For instance, there's $350 million. I saw that part of it was learning loss mitigation funds that you may have received from the CARES Act. I would like to see documentation and proof, information and access that with, or either copy it or view it on how you spent the $25 million. Okay, let's just throw a number out there. Say for instance, it's a bond measure or something like that, right? Says you were asking for $10,000 and measure whatever. I would like to know how you spent $10,000. Please, give me any records pertaining to the $10,000. Any and all records pertaining to the $10,000. So I just basically wanted to just give you guys that information, keep you informed about your rights, how to activate your rights, understand that we the people do have the right to see what is taking place through the Freedom of Information Act and Open Records Requests Acts and other things that we can look at, which we'll go into on another Tuesday. I'll just continue to share with you. We have the right to see these things as long as they are not, again, and the 9 exemptions or 3 exclusions. And so I hope that's helpful. You can always drop me a suggestion about your state or a question about your state in the chat. I have, like I said, continually received requests about Open Records Act. What do we do with that, right? And so if you have any particular that you need help with how to do that, let me know. I want to, I think, cover next time how to write cease and desist notifications. I've had parents who felt like they were being bullied or intimidated or harassed. That should not be taking place by anybody, first of all, definitely not educators. And so showing you how to write that cease and desist notice to have them stop that action and perform under good practices, under best practices. I will be definitely showing you on next Tuesday. All right, so if you need to contact me, Christina at mpunion.org. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Goodbye to America's beautiful children. We love you, and we will see you again on Thursday, where I have an amazing guest talking about some very important information. Make sure that you log on to the National Parents Union.org page. Check out everything that we're doing. Check out our membership. It's free. You can join the Parent Revolution. Organizations can join. And you can also be watching throughout the day for more shows just like this, or just whatever you may need, on our National Parents Union Facebook page. Goodbye, and I will see you again. Bye-bye.
Okay, you're out.
Girls.